Ford's success, mass production's dramatic impact, came not because it was a new idea, but precisely the opposite, because it was a set of old ideas that Ford brought together. How much of an impact did it have? When he first introduced the very first assembly line in the Magneto assembly room, the first unit, on a Friday, doing it the old way, it would take 20 man-minutes to build a single Magneto assembly. On Monday, when they rejiggered the assembly line and they actually introduced the assembly line, gave everybody a simple task, it dropped to 13 man-minutes. That's a 35% improvement overnight. By the end of the year, it was down to 5 man-minutes. The final assembly line, it took 12 hours, 12 man-hours to build a car. The first day, it took them 6 man-hours. By the end of the year, it was under 2. These were fundamental, profound improvements on the manufacturing process, not because they invented anything new, but rather because they created new combinations of these old ideas. And Ford knew it. Ford said, "I invented nothing new. I simply assembled into a car the discoveries of other men behind whom were centuries of work. Had I worked 50 or 10 or even 5 years before, I would have failed. So it is with every new thing. Progress happens when all the factors that make for it are ready, and then it is inevitable. To teach that the comparatively few men are responsible for the greatest forward steps of mankind is the worst sort of nonsense." This is the kind of education that I feel we need to teach the young engineers and scientists who are coming out and developing all these cool things, even to you guys who are developing all these great ideas, great products. To teach that the comparatively few men are responsible for the greatest forward steps of mankind is nonsense. So what I want to talk about instead is how it really happens. Now, as Ray said, I worked at Apple, so full disclosures, you've got my bias. I have steadfastly refused to buy Microsoft stock since 1984. I think in a few years I will have been proven right, but I'm still proven wrong. Nonetheless, I say this without bias because the federal courts said this about 5 years ago. Nothing Microsoft ever made money on was developed internally. MS-DOS, their first and most successful product, they licensed it to IBM the day before they bought it from Seattle Computer Company. Microsoft Word came virtually intact from Xerox PARC, along with its developer. Microsoft Excel came from Lotus 1-2-3, which came from VisiCalc. And again, if you read Upton Sinclair's Jungle, you remember VisiCalc as well. And then Microsoft Windows came from Apple's Macintosh, came from Xerox PARC as well. And yet somehow we have perpetuated the notion that there is a great man behind all of these innovations. So much so that we have the man on the cover of more magazines, I think, and probably most likely the Edison of our era, the father of the personal computer and the personal computer revolution, Bill Gates, on the cover here, worth about $8 billion at the time, and still incapable of buying a haircut. Why is that? And it's in part because they're perpetuating this great man theory of innovation that says that Bill Gates is responsible for all of the code of all of the products that Microsoft has ever done. So what I want to do is give you 4 straightforward lessons in innovation that I think everybody needs to understand. I wish I understood when I was an engineer. And the first one of these, innovation is about connecting, not inventing. It's about taking the pieces that are already out there and finding ways to put them together in new combinations and bring them to people who've never seen them before. That's how profound change happens. So then you ask yourself, well, how would you become capable of a minor invention every 10 days and a big thing every 6 months or so? It gives you a chance to do something different. It gives you a chance not to try and be another great man, but rather a chance to try and find ways to make a difference quickly and effectively. Now, the way to do that is to really fundamentally accept that innovation is about moving ideas. It's about moving existing ideas from where they're known to where they're not, putting them in new combinations. What Henry Ford did, he took ideas from bicycling, from agricultural production, from meat packing, and he brought them into the auto industry. Now, what makes this challenging and what I want to talk about today is that it's about 2 things, 2 very clearly different activities. The first is making great ideas.